The opinions expressed in this podcast are those solely of the persons expressing them, and do not represent the opinions of our families, employers, universities, clubs, or the reptiles that live under our homes.
The U.S. has become a dumping ground for everybody else's problems. Thank you. It's true. And these are the best and the finest. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. But I speak to border guards, and they tell us what we're getting. And it only makes common sense. It only makes common sense. They're sending us not the right people. It's coming from more than Mexico. It's coming from all over South and Latin America, and it's coming probably from the Middle East. But we don't know, because we have protection, and we have no competence. We don't know what's happening. And it's got to stop. And it's got to stop fast.
Hello, my name is Fox Navarro, and this is the MexSkeptical podcast, where we wave that Mexican thing out wherever we damn well please. This show takes a look at politics, religion, pop culture, and just about all the other stuff in the universe from the perspective of a Chicano skeptic in glorious border town, USA. So, yeah, this is, I guess, the first episode of MexSkeptical. I kind of wanted to do the Hispanic perspective in the skeptical greater movement. I don't know what you would call that, but I also wanted to talk about Hispanic and Latinx issues, because I feel like that's not really represented too well, particularly where I live, because I live in Texas. I live in the Rio Grande Valley, McAllen, Brownsville area, and most discussion of Latino issues tends to be focused in California, the Los Angeles area. And it wasn't until I'd watched, the George Lopez show when I was younger, but then I saw the W. Kamau Bell episode about, Latino USA, and they went to East LA, and that, it felt similar, but it was also quite different than the reality I had. So, this is kind of the show for my perspective, even if I'm not exactly a typical resident of, the RGV for many reasons. So, yeah, I just want to, start producing content, hopefully, if for no other reason than to just have this voice out there, someone to listen to, and someone will like it. And so today is the first episode of MexSkeptical, and we'll be taking a review of the second presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. At the end of this, we'll be talking a little bit about the Trump controversies over the past week or so. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to recap the debate. I'll probably just go all in on a few topics that I know much about. And we'll see where this goes. I have notes written. I'm going to read from them. Okay, so before we formally get into this thing, I just want to say there was no talk of immigration tonight, which is sad because that doesn't give me much to talk about. But also, they didn't really talk about it in the first debate either. Not really much in the vice presidential debate. So there is not, me to talk about, how much the border wall is going to fuck up my commute. I'm hoping it comes up at the third presidential debate. I think Chris Wallace, he recently announced the debate categories, and immigration was one of them. So yeah, I'm hoping, this comes up. Some about Mexicans, some about the border wall. So that'll be fun. But yeah, as far as the moderators we got went, I feel Cooper and Raddatz did a really good job in, sort of cracking the whip and keeping these candidates in check. It helps that, with the town hall format stuff, two moderators, they could both rely on each other, and they didn't have the responsibility solely of managing. I didn't hear anyone complain about the moderators being unfair or biased, which I think I think they did a really good job. Okay, so the debate started with no handshake, which I felt was a really bad sign. It was at that moment you could kind of feel the tension going in, and you could just it was bad. I mean, by the end of the debate, they shook hands, so maybe the ice broke, but probably not for good reason. Okay, the first audience question came here. They had asked, so a woman asked how politicians were acting as role models for today's youth, which is, obviously more of a hard question for Trump than Hillary, since most of these concerns go on to him. And yeah, Hillary Clinton used the opportunity to bash Trump. She cited the Trump effect that, some kids had. They were harassing other kids. They see Trump act a certain way and it becomes acceptable. And I'm not around young kids a lot, not anymore since the court order anyway, but Politico apparently rated that mostly true. Not Politico, PolitiFact rated that mostly true. So I'm, a little scary. And then, Trump refused to answer the question. He paid lip service to making America great again, and he said that was his number one priority. He made his comments against the Iran deal, against Obamacare. He cited our $800 million trade deficit, which apparently we do have. That is a real number, at least according to PolitiFact. And that as if we're owed $800 billion from Trade Nation. Is weird. Anderson Cooper, he rightly went after Trump with the whole, you didn't fucking answer the question. Also, why did you say you like to grab pussy, you goddamn maniac? And, this was really good how Anderson just took him to task on that comment. It took us real quick to get into the Trump tape, which again, I'll talk a little bit more about after this thing. I think Anderson Cooper, his exact words were,
"You brag that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?"
The words he used as if he's scolding a child, which I would have loved to have done the same thing if I was in his shoes. And he sort of denied the rapey undertones, and he tried to he did the whole it's just locker room talk thing, and he decided ISIS war crimes, how they're burning people in cages, as if that puts assholery in perspective. Anderson, he asked 3 questions in succession if Trump had ever actually groped or sexually assaulted women, and it took Trump until the third try to actually say no, which, if recent news outlets are to be believed, is not entirely accurate. I think he said something about people are pouring into this country from the Middle East and other places. I'd like to visit other places one day. There was a bit of a back and forth at this point between the usual attacks, and what I found a bit weird was that Trump gave a bit of a response to Trump was talking for a little bit. He gave a response to Clinton's response to his answer. He gets interrupted, and he complains, I never get the time I want to, even though he made like 3 the PolitiFact annotated transcript that I read this from, they gave him 3 paragraphs. Of course, it's actually really hard to annotate Trump's writing because he's such a bizarre speaker. But he did speak for a while. Reddit said, to move on and you'll get an opportunity. And then Trump says, sounds fair. Sounds fair, which is very weak complaint. Very weak complaint. So, Reddit asks a follow-up question, again, about the tape, since it was shared so much and a big point of conversation. Trump says, this was a long time ago. He was only 59. He's still set in his ways. He said that, he changed. And, apparently every locker room in America talks about, rape so casually. I was never a sports kid, and now I'm glad I wasn't, if that's what happens in locker rooms. And then Trump says here that Bernie signed a deal with the devil after bringing up that DNC email leak that showed, the DNC conspiring against Bernie. I never really thought that it was too big of a deal since, Bernie Sanders was never a Democrat. And in addition to him being just so politically out there. I don't fault the DNC for trying to hold him down as much as a lot of Bernie supporters would. It is interesting, though, that he says deal with the devil. I don't know if the devil was referring to Hillary Clinton or Debbie Wasserman Schultz. If it's the latter, I'm okay with it. I don't like Debbie very much. I like Clinton, but I don't like Debbie. Yeah, so this follows up with one of the worst moments of the debates in terms of basic human decency, where he claims that, Bill Clinton was more abusive to women than he could ever conceivably be. Again, recent allegations. We don't know that for sure. So he points out that he has the people who have accused him of rape and then claims that Hillary Clinton attacked those women and enables their behavior. And, he brought them right into the stage. He wanted to have them in the family box that Bill Clinton would have to confront them face to face. And, like, in the abstract, yeah, that's probably something, like, justice-wise, that could happen. Something that could happen. I know Jacob Zuma, he's the president of South Africa. He's been accused of rape. And the woman who, I guess, made the biggest accusations, rape victim, since I guess that's much less ambiguous case than it is with Bill Clinton. She actually died recently, so there's a big vigil for her in the civil rights movement over there. So, yeah, and this, okay, I forgot where I was going with this. Okay, I just want to point out that that Roger Stone, he has that book, The Clintons' War on Women, as if, attacking individual women means, you're a misogynist. Yeah, that makes sense. And I just want to point out, bringing up your husband's, like, marital infidelities as if they're her fault, as if it's a character attack against her when, but especially since he has been a serial, well, I guess it's three, that's a serial, I think, he's a serial wetter, and he has, cheated on his wives multiple times. It's public record. And, that's crazy. That's just a horrible thing to do to an individual woman. I think Samantha Bee said it like, Trump doesn't care about these women. He's just using these women to attack another woman. And so, as much as, sympathy you might have for Juanita Broderick, Paula Jones et al., it's fucked up how Trump is exploiting these people. I don't believe for a second that Trump is trying to, get justice for rape victims out of this. He sees an opportunity and he just takes it. Oh, also, Trump brings up that thing that the fringe right media loves to share. Hillary Clinton laughed at a rape victim whose rapist she helped free, which is absolutely nuts. I'm hoping to be a lawyer one day, and I can just say, you don't always get to choose your clients. Hillary Clinton has this story that she asked to be relieved from that case. And yeah, there is this is according to PolitiFact, which I rely on PolitiFact too much. They're not necessarily the most reliable fact-checking site, but they did have that annotated thing, and they seem to go into good detail, so I trust them a lot. Anyway, yeah, she was laughing about details of the case. And yeah, you can see a lot of conservative outlets talking about that. I went to another website for once, Snopes. They say that she took a case, she asked to be relieved, but she took the case. It ended with a plea bargain for the defendant. She chuckled about it when discussing some aspects of the case. People say, she volunteered and that the defendant got free. He took a plea bargain. Yeah, there's an image macro of it. You can see it on, like, the Federalist Daily Caller. I just want to point out, I'm fine if Hillary Clinton wants to laugh about a gruesome case. Doctors have an incredibly dark sense of humor. No one gives them shit for it. Because we know that's just the way the job works. All right. Humor is a way to cope in life with difficult circumstances, and if you're experienced enough, that's what you do to keep your humanity. And then Hillary Clinton attacked Donald Trump for some of the scandals he's done. And Trump claims that Sidney Blumenthal started the birther movement. Just for clarity's sake, Hillary Clinton's '08 campaign, which, and full disclosure, a relative of mine was a prominent member of Hillary Clinton's '08 campaign, so I don't want to be too critical here. It was not nearly as classy as it should have been regarding the identity and the biography of Barack Obama.
You saw that lovely photograph on Drudge yesterday, and Drudge said initially the Clintonites gave it to her. If the Clintonite did that, would you consider that first a dirty trick? And secondly, would you think the individual that did it should be fired if they could find him or her?
Understand this, the Clinton campaign does not condone people putting out pictures that they seem to believe are inappropriate. But let me say this. I have no shame or no problem with people looking at Barack Obama in his native clothing, in the clothing of his country. This is a diverse country, and people across America recognize that. I would not personally have done it, and we can't attribute it to anybody in our campaign. But the Clinton campaign does not condone the conduct, and we would hope that America is going to have an opportunity or begin to see if we're supporting a woman or an African American for president. We ought to be able to support their ability to wear the clothing of their nation.
But, by no means did they actually start the birther movement. The birther movement was started... the idea that Barack Obama was born in another country and thus ineligible for citizenship despite an American mother, that idea first came about by WorldNet Daily, a new conspiracy fringe site, because they wanted to sell magazines or something. I don't know. Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump talks about Bernie, again, losing the primary by over 3.5 million votes as an example of how the DNC is corrupt. I was an enthusiastic supporter of Bernie during the primary. I bailed after Super Tuesday, admittedly, but I was a fan much long before the primary season began. So, it meant a lot to me when he got in and that he campaigned and that he did as well as he did. But hearing Trump invoke the name of Bernie, it's like hearing Hitler say how much he likes Disney cartoons. It's just awful. It kind of ruins the joy knowing someone you hate endorses someone you like. Not that Trump would ever go with any of Bernie's policies. Trump talks about Hillary's email bleaching as it seems to think it involves literal bleach. But, okay, during this segment, and this is the thing that comes up. And some people have been talking about this, but I don't know if they fully understand the context.
But if I win, I am going to instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation, because there has never been so many lies, so much deception. There has never been anything like it. And we're going to have a special prosecutor.
People realize how fucked up this is. Look, and Americans, by and large, are ignorant of international politics and international trends. That's a consequence of living in an pretty much geographically isolated country with a big culture of our own. I think the reason we've gotten this far with Trump is because, we look at obvious dictatorial signs the way a Baptist teenager looks about sex, with naivete and extreme ignorance, because we don't expose ourselves to those things before we try them out. So jailing one's political opponent is just extremely over the line. And there are some Trump supporters who will say that, Hillary Clinton should have been in. That's what Trump says. He doesn't say, you're treason. Well, actually, no. Some of them do kind of say that Hillary Clinton is treasonous and she should go to jail. But there's a podcast called Opening Arguments. It looks kind of into the case law and stuff and precedent. I'll probably link to it in the YouTube articles, but it basically explains that the section of the Espionage Act that people like Rudy Giuliani say that would totally indict Hillary Clinton isn't as clear cut as the average person thinks it is. So, like the more you look into it, the more it seems like there is not much precedent to support this cause. And, the whole time that Trump is talking about this nonsense, Hillary's just smiling, putting on a great poker face. It's like nothing really phases her. It's incredible how just unlike Bill Clinton she is in every conceivable way. Like you could sort of see Bill Clinton in the audience. You clearly worried that, some of his highest profile rape accusers were in that audience with him, and Hillary just shook it off. It's amazing how unlike Bill she is. Opposites attract, I guess.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
I'll admit, I saw that for the first time. I laughed. That was just funny. Horrible as the meaning behind it is, it was a good comeback. It was funny. There was a nice timing to it. I'm sure Steve Bannon was high-fiving people in the spin room backstage. Radats went after Clinton on the emails thing, and yeah, again, I like that. They're trying to be as hard on both candidates as they can. He really goes into, James Comey's comments. So yeah, they give the standard response. There's not that much to it. Trump does interrupt Clinton a few times. But the most interesting thing about the exchange, I think, was this part right here.
I'd like to know, Anderson, why aren't you bringing up the emails? I'd like to know. Why aren't you
We
getting
brought up
to the
the
bottom?
emails.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. And it hasn't been finished at all.
And I just think that's crazy. Was that pre-programmed? Was there a server board in his brain that got someone spilled orange soda on and it just go... clean up the font, though. My God. You just talked about the emails. I mean, it seemed like they were moving on from the question, giving him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he just says they should have focused on it more, which is constructive, maybe. I don't know. I happen to think this is kind of a non-issue, but I understand how a lot of people can feel anxiety over it. So the third audience question is about Obamacare. Hillary Clinton, it goes to Hillary, but she gives Trump the chance to answer the question first, I assume, so she can gauge her answer on his crazy-ass answer.
If he wants to start, he can start. Go ahead, Hillary. No, go ahead, Donald.
No, I'm a gentleman, Hillary. Go ahead.
Secretary Clinton?
Not the demeanor you want to present to the audience. That if any moment from this debate will go down in history, I feel like it'll be that one. And so the answers, they're predictable for these candidates. Trump says repeal, repeal, repeal. Clinton says, keep what's good and fix what's bad. But at what point does Trump say something that really is weird with me? And I'm going to say it.
There is. She wants to go to a single-payer plan, which would be a disaster, somewhat similar to Canada. And if you ever notice, the Canadians, when they need a big operation, when something happens, they come into the United States in many cases because their system is so slow. It's catastrophic in certain ways.
And that is a nonsense answer. I don't get that at all. I don't live near Canada. I can't tell you how many Canadians go to America for big operations, but I can tell you that I live kind of near a town called Nuevo Progreso. Look it up on Google Maps and type in dentists in Nuevo Progreso. There are 7 dental offices in a town of about 10,000 people, and that is because healthcare in Mexico is really cheap, and it's usually pretty good. I mean, despite the reputation that, Mexico, it's a third world country. Yeah, well, a lot of healthcare in Mexico is actually really good, and dental care especially. Most of the people I know who do go to Mexico for healthcare do it because of dental stuff. Because a lot of insurance doesn't cover dental, and, out-of-pocket stuff for dental, even at the low-cost clinic, which I go to, is more expensive than usual. So 7 dental, and one of them, I want to point out, all 7 of these dentists are about within walking distance from the Nuevo Progreso bridge. It's one of these dentists is called Texas Dental Clinic. I'm serious. Texas Dental Clinic, which is hilarious, which is an awesome name for a dentist in Tamaulipas. It's incredible. So you see my point. There are dentists across the border, and yeah, there are a lot of people who also go to Mexico for, other healthcare, pediatricians or just regular checkups, but a dentist, that's the big thing in my community. So yeah, these are dentists in other countries that are catering specifically to Americans. I don't think you'd have to convince a Mexican American to go there with Texas Dental Clinic. That's probably for the guy who lives in, I don't know, that ranch where Dick Cheney shot that guy. People who live in that town, for them to go over there for some, low cost and good medical care. Apparently even some insurance, God, one of my family friends, I was talking about this on Facebook. One of my family friends said, oh, my insurance works down there in Nuevo Progreso. I like it a lot. So, they even have insurance down there, so you don't need out of pocket at all. God, I think my mom tells me that she had her wisdom teeth surgery in Nuevo Progreso. It was like, no, actually, I think this was in Reynosa. But yeah, either way, the wisdom tooth surgery removal, it was in Mexico. It was like $60 or $80 out of pocket, no insurance. And it would have been about $20 less, but she had some weird tooth that needed a little bit of extra work. So, again, it's dirt cheap and it's good. Everyone who I know who goes there says that, other than the traffic from having to cross the bridge, it's pleasant. And, the quality is good. And, of course, you're in Mexico, which has its own problems. Okay, I talked about Mexico a lot. So this is question 4 from the audience. It comes from a Muslim woman asking about Islamophobia. And Kumail Nanjiani, some of you might know from Silicon Valley and Adventure Time, he had this amazing tweet about this part of the debate. It was something akin to, a Muslim woman undecided in this debate? Have you been paying attention for the last year or so? I just thought that was a great tweet. That's sort of yeah, obviously. And I just want to go off on a little tangent here. She's asking this question, and right behind her is, that guy, like the media, like all the outlets said, this guy was glaring at Donald Trump the whole time. And I didn't even notice. What I noticed was that he looked just like David Allen Greer. He looked full like the dad from the Carmichael Show. It was distracting. That was just uncanny. Oh, okay, maybe I'm going uncanny. I remember it. The way I remember it, it was like, oh, I guess Joe Carmichael isn't going to make America great again. He's undecided. Actually, I think they interviewed that guy a little later. He said that, he's no way in hell he's voting for Trump. So that answer got going. But yeah, this Muslim woman asks a question about Islamophobia and how they can protect national security while not fanning the flames of hatred. And both of those candidates basically say, maybe you people should just try harder, snitch on each other some more. And that's an oversimplification. Obviously, Trump was more, fire and brimstone about national security. He said something about how people in San Bernardino could see the bombs in their apartment, but no one would talk to them, which I don't think that happened. Not a real thing. And obviously Hillary Clinton was much more conciliatory, but he did, and I guess, yeah, that is kind of the right answer, that we want to, encourage Muslims to not feel alienated from society so that they'll want to protect people. But it's sort of a weird thing that they say that, as if, all Muslims know who all terrorists are, which is strange. I have a couple of Muslim friends. I don't think any of them know terrorists. If they would, they'd be a lot more anxious. I feel if I knew a terrorist, and for whatever reason I decided not to tell people, I would just be like, oh god, oh god, oh god. Oh, what is Ernesto gonna do his goddamn thing about that? So fucked up. I have a relative named, I was trying to think of a generic Spanish name. I have a relative named Ernesto. Ernesto, I don't think you're a terrorist. You're cool. Please don't sue me. Okay. I think Trump, okay, at this point, I stopped taking real notes, and just wrote down sentence bullet points. I got Minton make the effort, Khan a we alive today, Iraq war bickering, criminal aliens. So I'm gonna bear with me here. I forgot to plan some of this ahead. So after these two give their answer, Radat poses a follow-up question with Donald Trump's comments on his, shutdown that, he wants to ban Muslims from entering the United States, and asked him if that's what he still believes, because Mike Pence said no. Trump points out that Captain Khan is an American hero, and if I were president at that time, he would be alive today. Which is such a weird thing to say, because Donald Trump hasn't apologized for, the way he treated that Gold Star family. Captain Khan, Hillary Clinton brought him up in passing to sort of point out, we have, lots of Muslims are good Americans. Muhammad Ali was one. This is another. So, I don't know. That kind of reeked of just insensitivity. Like, come on, dude. Don't be like that. He then said the Muslim ban morphed into extreme vetting, which is what we already do. We're the most powerful country on earth. Our CIA is a normal intelligence agency on steroids. And so Radat interrupts Trump, asking, how did you get from there to this? Trump complains, why don't you interrupt her? And then Radat just says, fuck you, explain yourself. And then Trump says, it's called extreme vetting. Hillary Clinton wants to allow a 550% increase in refugees we're taking, which is true, by the way, and, pardon me if that doesn't give me much angst. If you watch the only other video on this YouTube channel, you'll understand my position on the Syrian refugee crisis. He repeats his claim that, again, we can't vet refugees. He says that, the Gulf states shouldn't be He says that the Gulf states aren't carrying their weight despite being wealthy, which I don't know if I would condemn the victims of a violent theocratic government situation to move to a peaceful theocratic government situation, but at the very least there's a lot of financial incentive that I feel like these wealthy Qataran assholes don't put their fair weight in. If you can afford slave labor to kill just a whole bunch of Indian people so you can host a FIFA World Cup, you should be able to give some refugees some food or I don't know, Game Boys or something just to make their lives less miserable. And there's some Iraq war bickering because, Donald Trump seems to deny the fact that the Howard Stern Iraq war tape exists. And, he just says, that has not been debunked. I was always against the war in Iraq. This time, though, he doesn't invoke Sean Hannity, which was weird. I guess maybe they didn't think it was very effective. I don't know. Trump uses the term criminal illegal aliens to refer to, stuff. Just before I saw the vice presidential debate, I saw the immigration episode of Adam Ruins Everything, and in a speech from I believe it was Herbert Hoover, I think it was Hoover, right, in the 30s when they were justifying kicking out all the Mexicans. They'd used the term, these are criminal aliens, and we gotta kick them out. Which, and Mike Pence clearly tried to make that the new lexicon for the criminal aliens. Of course, if you're Donald Trump, all undocumented immigrants are criminal based on what you define. He then says that ICE just endorsed me. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE is a federal agency. They don't endorse people. That's like saying the Department of Commerce endorsed me. That's not what they do. He does have the support of, a couple of ICE's unions, a couple of, former leaders and stuff. But I think that's just because Donald Trump wants to give them so much free stuff. I mean, clearly a Donald Trump presidency, skyrockets the cost in border security funding, particularly at the Mexican border. So, they feel that, it's good for him. The construction workers endorsed Bernie. That's what they did. Okay, now at this point, Reddit asks Clinton about the some of the WikiLeaks things that revealed some of her paid Wall Street speeches, in which she's, real nice, sort of praising them for their good thing. And Hillary Clinton tries to defend being two-faced by invoking the movie Lincoln by Steven Spielberg. I didn't see it, actually. I probably should. He won an Oscar for it. I try to watch all the Oscar-nominated movies. I think that was a weird year. I missed it. But yeah, and he sort of uses that to say that sometimes you gotta lie to get things done. I kind of wanted it to turn into a Few Good Men moments. It was like, you can't handle the truth. You don't know what I do to protect y'all's asses from Russia and stuff. But like, that's so weird to invoke, Lincoln. I'm sure it's a good movie, but it's not like it seems too recent to be like a modern classic. I don't know how many people have seen it. And it's just clearly trying to invoke the spirit of Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, there are other Steven Spielberg movies you can like instead. Schindler's List was pretty good. He did a lot of work on like Indiana Jones. I think he made some of the Star Wars films. Trump claims that Honest Abe was so good because he never lied, which I took issue with. I mean, Hillary Clinton's clearly saying in the movie that Lincoln lied. He had to have lied at least once. He was a big shot lawyer before his big political career. He represented people. Clinton had brought up the Kremlin and Russia in the last answer. And then Trump says that I don't know Putin, despite I can remember in the campaign where he said I have a personal relationship with Putin. Because of that, 60 Minutes interview, he said that they had met even though they were filming from different continents. Audience question number 5 comes from a guy asking, how do you candidates ensure that the rich pay their fair share? And then Trump asks Clinton why she didn't fix the tax code. And yeah, the part of me that's a bit of a constitutional nerd was kind of squirming in my seat. Because, like, if there's one thing I remember from taking federal government class, it's that bills that are designed to raise commerce can only originate in the U.S. House of Representatives, and she's a senator. And I remember that because it's a weird law, and it seems like it seems like a weird procedural rule that we could probably change, and it wouldn't do much harm. But I guess when we're talking about like budget building and stuff, then it's smart to have it in sort of streamlined, that it originates in the House, goes to the Senate for approval. I don't know. It doesn't seem as necessary as I'm sure it once was. And then Hillary attacks Trump for her tax things. And I don't really blame, the whole thing with the tax, I don't really blame Trump for writing off all that losses, if indeed it is what he lost. Since, there's got to be a personal write-off to ensue that, you don't get screwed by the tax system. It's important for, small businesses especially, but it's being abused by someone like him. I think like on that tax return, it said that Trump had only made in profit, made in money he brought in $3.5 million or something like that. It was a really small money. So it was a really small amount of money that you wouldn't expect as the income from a man who, has always claimed to be a billionaire. It just seems weird. And yeah, it seems to me like I would attack more for the business acumen of how fucking awful do you have to be to lose $1 billion in a single year, and from casinos no less. That's just terrible. So that's weird. And then I guess when Trump attacks Hillary for not fixing America, she admits that, hey, I was a Democratic senator. I had a Republican president, which I thought was a really good line. Trump then attacks Hillary for not being bipartisan, and she responds with, hey, bitch, I made chips. Children's health insurance program, and I was on chips when I was a kid. I like chips. Chips are delicious. And then she sort of cites a bunch of like a Republican mayor, Republican governor, 9/11, I fixed New York, which, yeah, okay, everyone likes a good 9/11 reference. The moderator then talks about Syria, as particularly she spends a lot of time going into the detail of the Syria situation, just in case these candidates don't know what Aleppo is either. Hillary Clinton gives the first answer where she sort of makes the case that Russia is being too aggressive and they need to know their place, especially if, depending on what we're going to do in Syria. I'm looking at the transcript right now, and it still seems like a sort of a weird answer. No one really knows what to do about Syria, and I can kind of forgive that. There's really no easy answer whether we should go all in or we should pull out.
Secretary Clinton,
first of all,
Mr.
she
Trump
was there as Secretary of State with the so-called line in the sand, which...
No, I wasn't. I was gone. I hate to interrupt you, but
you were in contact. Excuse me.
At some point, we need to do some
You were in total contact with the White House, and perhaps, sadly, Obama probably still listened to you. I don't think he'd be listening to you very much anymore.
That comment about needing to do some fact checking is kind of hilarious because Clinton saying that she wasn't in office when the line in the sand comment happened. It's technically true, but it's entirely misleading. Obviously, if you're Secretary of State for 4 years, you can create a foreign policy outline, and certainly you can recommend the what to do about the situations. Even in the PolitiFact annotated transcript, it says she wasn't there, but Clinton met with Obama and his staff several times and publicly endorsed the White House's position on how to respond. So, that is very obviously, a point in Trump's favor. Hillary may not have gone out and, announced the line in the sand comments, but, she was there to structure a foreign policy surrounding that, and certainly praised Obama and Kerry for what they did. But the rest of Trump's answer is pretty much basically about every foreign policy thing of the past couple of years, except for humanitarianism and what the U.S. should do in Syria. So Raddatz again says, hey, answer the fucking question. Goes on, and Trump does contradict his running mates in regards to U.S. military action in Syria. Trump says, I think you have to knock out ISIS. Right now, Syria is fighting ISIS. We have people that want to fight both at the same time. Syria is no longer Syria. Syria is Russia, and it's Iran, who she made very strong, and Kerry and Obama made into a very powerful nation and a very rich nation. Very, very quickly, very, very quickly. I read it verbatim because this guy talks very strangely. It's objectively ridiculous. Yeah, he talks about Iran like they won the lottery and they spent it on fast cars and pipe bombs. It's fucking crazy how we gave them their own money. Otherwise, we would be thieves. Trump says that Aleppo has fallen, which is bleak. And then he says that
we have announcements coming out of Washington and coming out of Iraq. We will be attacking Mosul in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Well, all of these bad leaders from ISIS are leaving Mosul. Why can't they do it quietly? Why can't they do the attack, make it a sneak attack, and after the attack is made, inform the American public that we've knocked out the leaders, we've had a tremendous success. People leave. Why do they have to say we're going to be attacking Mosul within the next 4 to 6 weeks, which is what they're saying? How stupid is our country?
There are sometimes reasons the military does that. Psychological warfare.
I can't think of any.
It might be to help get civilians out.
And I have 200 generals and admirals who endorse me. I have 21 Congressional Medal of Honor recipients who endorse me.
So just a reminder that Donald Trump knows absolutely nothing about the way the military works. Donald Trump points out that he has 21 Medal of Honor recipients who endorsed him, which is cute. Mitt Romney had 41. And he, again, refuses to put together a coherent and specific strategy other than the vague, we have to kick ass and take names. It's crazy. And in here somewhere, Trump again bitches that he doesn't get enough time. I think a timer at the end of the debate showed that Trump spoke for like 40 minutes and Clinton for 39 minutes. So you got plenty of time. You're just an idiot. Okay, audience question number 6 comes from a man named James Carter, which is an awesome name. Former President James Carter. He's a black guy from St. Louis. And talks about how, he talks about how these candidates could be devoted presidents to everyone in the United States and not just their obvious constituencies. And then Trump just begins by just attacking Hillary Clinton. She calls our people deplorable, a large group, and irredeemable, which is, obviously, if you call Mexicans rapists, it's one thing. If you say that a candidate's supporters suck, that's so different. Oh, man, those Mexican comments, man, I forgot about them. I played them at the beginning of the show. Trump seems to be avoiding social issues. He's not really talking about gay people. I remember he said after Orlando that, I will be the best president to gay people. But, clearly that only refers to foreign threats to gay Americans. No, domestic threats to gay Americans get to be vice president. Yay. He then talks about, the hellhole of black and Hispanic neighborhoods. I live in a very, very predominantly Hispanic area of the country. Not just a neighborhood. I'm talking like areas of like 10 or more counties. And yeah, a lot of it sucks. We're one of the poorest parts of the country, don't get me wrong, but it's nice. There's not a lot of violent crime. People seem to be nice to each other. This is a pleasant place to live in. I would totally rather raise children here than just in bumfuck nowhere, Alabama. I'm from the Valley. Also, South Texans love to shit talk the American South. I don't know where it originated from, but it's one of my favorite things. Just, shit talking the South when we live in goddamn Texas. A little thing. Yeah. He said if the blacks were smart, they'd vote for me. It was at this point I didn't type notes because my type fingers got hard, so I just wrote these down. Yeah, well, very bleak view of the black neighborhoods. Hillary Clinton says that, she will be president of all Americans because she got 67% of the vote when she was reelected in New York in the Senate, that's a terrible argument. I'm sorry. New York is a very blue state. In 2010, they reelected Chuck Schumer with 66% of the votes, and that was a very, very good year for Republicans. In 2004, Chuck Schumer won re-election with 71% of the vote. Again, Republican won that year in Congress. So, it's, again, a poor argument. New York is a blue state, and I guess they love their blue senators. At this point, Hillary Clinton, she actually mentions her work in South Texas, registering Latino citizens to vote. And I was all like, yeah, that's us. And again, when I said earlier that I had a relative who worked with Clinton in the 2008 campaign, that's pretty much where they met. That's where the connection to the Latino community comes in. So, that's why I like Hillary Clinton a lot, because, she connections where I am. Where I come from, all the lots of, old Latino women just saying, oh, she's so great, she's wonderful. That's where that comes from. But of course, I'm going to point out when she, messes up in a debate, because, not a lot of this is what I would have done. But yeah, I thought that was a good thing. She also brings up, apparently, a child who was adopted from Ethiopia by an American family as a toddler, now 10 years old, has said, apparently listens to Donald on TV and has questions, is Donald going to send me back to Ethiopia? I don't know if that's a real story. It could have just been made up for rhetorical sake. If it is, that's fucking depressing, man. That's 10 years old, man. They don't need to know how ugly things are in the world. Although, apparently in Alabama, I think, there was some first grade kid, 7 years old, Muslim. He was South Asian. I think this family was Pakistani American. He got beat up, because he looked funny, had a funny name. So yeah, oh, parents, don't expose your kids to jackassery. And yeah, that's what Hillary brings up the Trump effect again. Bullying is up. A lot of people are feeling uneasy. Kids expressing their concern. Anderson Cooper, Hillary Clinton keeps talking while Anderson Cooper says, "Your 2 minutes are up. Shut up. I want to get this over with." And then Anderson Cooper again sort of asks, "Hey, this basket of deplorables thing, that was a really messed up thing to say to people. What the fuck?" And then Hillary Clinton pointed out that, hey, within hours, I said I was sorry. My argument's not with his supporters, it's with him and his campaign. Which I thought was good. I would not have said that if I were in her position. I would have avoided that as much as I could because, that just gives red meat to the Trump base. And then she rightfully so points out that, he's insulted everyone who is not him, basically. Why am I getting this much shit for it? And he's never apologized for it, and that's true. That's true. She said, "I'm proud of the campaign that Bernie Sanders and I ran. We ran a campaign based on issues, not insults." Yeah, I was glad to hear, and, an endorsement of Bernie Sanders from someone I didn't want to suffocate with a pillow. Trump then says, "We're a divided nation." He says, you got, all sorts of violence in, Baltimore, Chicago, D.C., Charlotte, the black cities. And she says that Hillary Clinton has tremendous hatred in her heart, which is not the phrase I would have used. I probably would have said something like, she has disregard because she's an elitist sitting in her ivory tower, scoffing at everyday Americans, which would have been a better line. Although if I were Donald Trump, I would not try to point ivory towers as a bad thing. He lies about the fact that he tweeted all of America to check out a sex tape, which, in this past few weeks just seems so innocent, so quaint. A nominee for president telling Americans to watch a non-existent sex tape that comes from some reality TV show in South America or whatever. The question that spurred the sex tape comment, Anderson Cooper asked Trump if he has the proper discipline to be president since he likes to text at 3 to 5 in the morning. And then, Trump brings up, Hillary Clinton says, "At least I'll be awake at 3 a.m. Since, Hillary Clinton slept through the Benghazi things while the soldiers died and pleaded for help," which is a fucking weird thing to say because, time zones are different. The Benghazi attacks in, Washington, D.C. time were near mid-afternoon. So it's like mid-afternoon. It wasn't 3 a.m. A PolitiFact says that she was up until at least 11 p.m. that night, which, gives her plenty of time to work. They also say that if we take Trump's claims more broadly, that Clinton was inattentive throughout the hours in which the attacks occurred, none of the many congressional investigations into Benghazi have made that assertion. So this is just, on every, even the most forgiving level, just wrong. Like he ever says something right. Ha 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 ha. So, Hillary Clinton spends a little bit of this time sort of dick riding Bill Clinton and Obama. I should not have said dick riding, but I'm a little vulgar. That's what it's. You know what I mean. She points out, my husband took a $300 billion deficit, turned it into a $200 billion surplus. Everybody got jobs. All the black people got jobs. Obama fixed us from the Great Recession. We're all good. And Clinton keeps trying to talk. While Raddatz sort of interrupts her to say, "Shut up." Okay, and then we move to another audience question. This audience question is about the Supreme Court, which I found interesting. I didn't think, I don't know how many average Americans think about the Supreme Court, but it was a good one. And to be honest, if I were working on Clinton's campaign, I would try and avoid talking about the Supreme Court since, the Republicans are clearly more fractured than the Democrats are. Most of the Bernie people, or at least most of the ones that I know anyway, and that I've seen online, they're voting for Clinton. But, Trump, there are still a lot of Republicans who are not voting for Trump. And the idea that we might get a liberal Supreme Court, to me, seems like the best argument if you're a reluctant Republican who wants to vote for Trump. Since the Supreme Court, lasts, way beyond, what a Trump administration could reasonably last. It could be 4 years. It could be until Comrade Trump kicks the bucket. We don't know what it'll do with the Constitution. So, yeah, that's something you'd want to try and make people forget about. But that's just me playing campaign manager. And I'm sure there are arguments for, why, you can galvanize liberal voters with the Supreme Court. And then Hillary basically just says, we want to nominate Supreme Court justices who have, real life experience, real good people. She defends Roe v. Wade. She defends marriage equality decision, and then points out that Trump would have nominees that would replace those, which I guess is, definitely big get out the vote thing. And then, sort of condemns all those things. Then Trump spends the rest of the time dick riding Justice Scalia, and then says, we need to nominate more people like him. I've picked a list of 20 people, and if I'm president, I'm not going to appoint any of them. Let's put Peter Thiel on the Supreme Court. That's a joke, by the way. There was like a rumor that Donald Trump wanted to put Peter Thiel on the Supreme Court, which would be fucking hilarious. Trump says that Hillary Clinton is trying to destroy the Second Amendment with a bazooka. Not true. And then criticizes Hillary Clinton for, hey, you took all this dark money. If you're so against Citizens United, why do you, everything, all the stuff, with all the money and all the special interests. And Clinton deflects, saying this question was about the Supreme Court. She defends her opinion on the Second Amendment, and I guess doesn't answer the dark money question. Oh, and so this is the, oh, wait, hang on. I forgot to mention. Okay, I have a friend who lives in South Africa. I was talking with them at this point, and, when I was just typing, I'm watching the debate right now. It's such a shit show. This is crazy. These candidates hate each other so much. And it was at this point that they go, maybe I should watch a YouTube live stream of it. I'm not doing anything. I'm in college. Not literally. Oh, God. So my friend, they put it on, and this is like the first thing they do, and they say, liberal Supreme Court. Seems smart. Seems very smart. I think that the first thing they said was, why is he like this? Understandable. Okay, yeah, and this is where Ken Bone comes in, and honestly, I'm not entirely sure why this guy became such a meme, a sensation overnight. It seems weird, but I guess, he has a likable public look, especially the way he's been, interacting with people on like social media and stuff. That's pretty cool of him to do. And it's weird. Like, whoever he's still undecided last I checked, but whoever he decides to endorse, he's going on the campaign trail. If he endorses Trump or Clinton, you're flying them out to Florida to just do it, and people are gonna show up, I bet. This is so weird. He has a question that says, how are you going to meet our energy needs while remaining environmentally friendly and, minimizing job loss for people who work at fossil fuel power plants? Donald Trump says that energy is under attack by Obama and that the EPA is the bad guys, just like in the first Ghostbusters movie. Interestingly, he doesn't really bring up the environment a lot. He just sort of says that, we need all the energy we can get. Wind and solar, it's important. He says that Hillary Clinton want to put coal miners out of business. And yeah, Hillary Clinton probably doesn't talk the best in regards to, how these coal miners feel. And I just want to say, coal mining is a terrible job. I don't know why you would want to keep it, at all. But, if it's what you do and if it's all you know, then I guess that is the, way to go. Trump talks about clean coal as a thing. And then, my friend in South Africa just goes, clean coal? WTF? Fuck off. No. So, a good first impression of the nuances in American politics. Clean coal, a little bit of a weird thing. But, so yeah, he just, again, EPA is stupid. That's basically his answer. Hillary Clinton then gives her answer. Again, none of them seem to talk in the moment about how charming Ken Bone was. So, although I was watching Twitter like a hawk during this time, and they're all like, Ken Bone, into the bone zone! So, I could kind of tell this guy was popular. I didn't think his popularity would go this big, though. I haven't seen either of them talk about Ken Bone or, the energy policy since this, though. I feel like if they did, that would just ruin it. He's the only really, truly nice thing we've gotten out of this election cycle. Let's not ruin it with politics. Oh yeah, she's my South African friend just says, coal is so primitive. Why is coal even a thought? Oh my goodness. So yeah. Okay, Hillary Clinton's answer involves the phrase, we are now for the first time ever energy independent, which that's demonstrably false. I didn't recall reading on the news that we surpassed Brazil as the world's biggest energy independent nation. We still produce much less energy than we consume. We still import more than we export. That is a provably false thing to say. Yeah, the numbers are getting better. I'm kind of glad they're getting better. Don't get me wrong, even if I'm extremely uncomfortable with some of the hydraulic fracturing and some of the ways they're getting done. But I do like that they are getting better. But we're not energy independent by any stretch of the imagination. She says that we're not dependent upon the Middle East, but the Middle East still controls a lot of oil prices, which, yeah, I'm willing to give credit for. Our biggest oil importing partner is Canada, and Mexico's number 2. So yeah, Middle Eastern oil, we actually don't use that much. But yeah, OPEC, they are, trying to sort of price fix so that, all those rich princes can stay rich. And I don't know who's the president of Venezuela. He sucks. I know that for sure. Yeah, that's something we could probably be better without. She also points out that the price of coal is down worldwide, so it's probably not a smart idea to invest so much in it, which is a good idea, but, try telling that to a coal worker for whom coal is all they know, which Hillary Clinton talks about in the previous paragraph, that, they've put this much stake into it, they don't want to see it die, even if it's just an objectively terrible thing. I mean, damn, at least if you're a migrant farm worker, you get the sun, you get vitamin D. That's, at least you're not in a cramped space where you could die from carbon monoxide poisoning. And, emergency help is a coin toss of helping you. I mean, it's the worst job. I mean, I respect people who do it, but my God, it's terrible. Okay, and now we're at the last question of the debate. And it was not, and this was the one where, again, my friend just goes, OMG, this question, that's such a sweet thing to ask. And it is, and I kind of thought this guy was going to get internet popular because he just asked the question, regardless of the current rhetoric, what would either of you name one positive thing you respect in one another? And you could just feel everyone's hearts melted. Trump was smiling, Clinton was smiling, the moderators were happy, the audience applauded. The audience was really active during this debate, and, the moderators just didn't say anything. They just let it slide because they knew it was, a much needed moment of positivity in such a vehemently negative cycle. I remember 2012. I was like, this is the most negative campaign ever. Oh, no, it's not. No, it is not. Hillary Clinton says that she respects his children, and that says a lot about Donald. And I just love that answer, because you're giving up. You don't even, you're not complimenting him. You're complimenting people tangential to him. You know Donald Trump didn't raise his children. That was some Mexican nanny who's probably not in the country anymore. But you're not him. You're complimenting people adjacent to him. And Trump could and as she just says that, hey, this election's conflict oriented because we're choosing a lot at stake. Elect me president, the world could end otherwise. Which I thought was kind of unfair. It's supposed to be a nice personal question, and she spends about, 2 paragraphs saying, hey, we're all gonna die unless I'm president. Otherwise, who knows? I didn't think that was in good show. And Donald Trump kind of noticed that this is a weird thing to compliment. He just says, I consider her statement about my children to be a very nice compliment. I don't know if it was meant to be a compliment, but it is great. I consider that a compliment. I'm proud of my children. Which, okay, I guess you know. I guess you know. And then, Trump just says, Hillary Clinton, she's a fighter. She doesn't quit. She doesn't give up. I disagree with her judgment in many cases, but she does fight. She doesn't quit. I consider that to be a good trait. Which, I'm glad Trump was positive. The whole time I was like, what are you doing? You're writing a campaign ad for her. She's going to run that. Even Donald Trump agrees that Hillary Clinton is a fighter. Completely ignoring the context of the question. Anderson Cooper and Martha Raddatz say, thank you for watching this shit show. We're going to go get shit-faced in the spin room. And then this election is finally over. No, not the election's over. Oh, wouldn't that be nice if the election was over and we could focus on, the Oscars or something. But yeah, no, the debate's over. The last debate is going to be October 19th. In Las Vegas, moderated by Chris Wallace. So, yep. That's the end of the debate. And I think Hillary Clinton won because she gave the actual answers that had stuff to do with reality. But yeah, I thought Trump did a lot better. He just completely, in the first debate, he had no expectations and still disappointed. But in today's debate, he was more on message. He didn't interrupt her as much in raw numbers, but he did. He did. I think he interrupted 19 times, Hillary Clinton too. Still not a good look, but it was better structured. So yeah, I could see this was a good night for Trump just because the expectations for him were so low. I think, Hillary Clinton won this. Despite my little criticisms of her in, those moments, by far, she was the winner. I also want to point out, I asked my South African friend if I could use their observations from it, and she told me, I think you two have the worst candidates of all time, so the debate was a ride for me. I have preferences, though, which is fun. Which is fun. I obviously, because of my connections to Clinton, I would disagree. I think Clinton's a good candidate, but I completely understand why people might feel fatigued of her. Okay, and that was my analysis of, if you can call it an analysis. I just sort of recapped it and complained a little bit. But that was my whatever of the second presidential debate. I'm going to talk about the Trump tapes in just a little bit. But before I do, I just want to point out one little thing about the Oscar connection, where it says that you can predict who will win the presidential election, sort of the incumbent party, based on what wins the Oscar for Best Picture. Sort of as what is the does the institution, it was the system fails or does the system win? They say 1975, in 76, the Oscar ceremony for that year, the films were in 75, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where, a not crazy person is lobotomized by the hospital meant to help him. So, the system fails the main characters. And then, Ford loses, Carter wins. 79, Kramer versus Kramer. The justice system sides with, a mom who is not as qualified to hold a child as the father, just because, Carter loses, Reagan picks in. 84, Terms of Endearment wins Best Picture. It's sort of like a, hey, we suffered through a lot, but we'll come together. Family structure stays intact. And the, Reagan wins re-election. A little bit of a weird thing in 88. I'll talk about sort of weird presidential coincidences maybe in another episode. But I just want to point out, what won Best Picture this year was Spotlight. And that's kind of a weird case because, they're pointing out that, the institution is failing these, the children who have been sexually abused by priests. But it does say that, hey, these heroic reporters, they're standing up to it and, they'll fight for justice. But at the same time, a lot of those priests, are not going to face jail time. So that's hard to say. Obviously, this is just correlation instead of causation, but I think it's neat. Okay, Trump sex tape. Trump was caught on an Access Hollywood, but I call it the Billy Bush tape. It's probably Access Hollywood tape more effectively. I call it the Billy Bush tape because I did not know about Billy Bush until before this thing. And my God, how does the cousin of the president get on just such celebrity trash? How do we as a country decide that's okay? Oh, there's a lot of things about the Bushes that really should not have been okay. But anyway, yep, grab them by the pussy. Trump's words. Horrifying. And he's bragging about sexual assault, and he said, "Oh, this is just locker room talk." And locker room talk. I talk about sex and stuff with my friends, or more specifically at my friends. Sometimes going on, there are ways to have this conversation. Even with female friends, I have. Sometimes we'll talk about lewd stuff, and rape is not a thing, and a lot of people are trying to spin it. I think Alex Jones said, oh, they're just upset because he used the word pussy. It's not the word pussy that bothers us. It's the words grab them by the that precede it and the you can do anything that succeed it. Oh my God. I think Rush Limbaugh, who still has a show for some reason. For some reason he still has a show. I thought he died, but I guess all the 90s are coming back. He said that liberals, they don't care what kind of sex acts you do as long as it's consensual. That's the magic word. And we're like, yes, that is correct information. If you change your tone, you are giving correct information. We do care about consent and not, God hates fags as a domestic policy. So yeah, a lot of people have been saying, oh, this is what finally, causes them to unendorse Trump. All these politicians citing, I have, my daughters I need to look after, instead of, his comments about Mexicans, about Muslims, POWs. And I just want to sort of state my opinion. I do think that these comments do go farther than the Mexican comments. And I think that, because here's the thing. Trump called Mexicans horrible name. You heard it in the beginning. He called us, rapists, criminals, talked about the notion of good Mexicans as if that was something that, needed a qualifier, as if that was an anomaly that only existed just because of raw statistics would say that there had to have been one good Mexican out there somewhere. But he never bragged about beating us up. Trump supporters beat us up, but Trump never, and Trump defended those supporters, God damn it. But Trump never admitted that, hey, I like to beat up Mexicans. I'm famous. You can do that to people. And these comments clearly express a power structure. These comments clearly express that, this is how Trump sees the world, that, he's rich, he's entitled, he gets to walk all over people. And shit talking Mexicans, that's something everyone can does. Steve King and Louis Gohmert probably are not going to actively sexually assault women and think they can get away with it because they're rich. Maybe they think they can get away with it because they're congressmen and they're so darn Christian and, they'll forgive anything you do. Hell, David Vitter's a senator. Mark Sanford's a congressman. We don't know why the fuck we let that happen. So, I do think these lines go way too far. I still don't even know if it's the worst thing that he's said. It's definitely the worst thing he's done because, again, there's all these rape allegations for him. He's supposed to go to trial, I think, to be involved to see if he ever raped a 13-year-old girl while hanging out with billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, I think his name is. This is not new information necessarily. I don't. At the Clinton camp, they're not talking about the 13-year-old rape allegations thing much because Bill Clinton also liked to hang out with that billionaire, and during said hanging out with said billionaire on 5 separate occasions, he had his Secret Service crew disbanded for the while. So, oh man, yeah. So yeah, it's not a pretty situation. But speaking of that, I do think that the Hillary camp was smart to sort of not go after Trump. They sort of waited for it to happen because now Trump brought up Bill Clinton's infidelities and allegations of sexual assault, and now it's coming on Trump. So now Trump made the claim, and now these allegations of Trump sexually assaulting other people, now that has gone out, and now the ball's in his court. He's the one that the press is calling a hypocrite. So, I think the Clintons, they obviously have their own reasons for not wanting to talk about Jeffrey Epstein or kind of wanting to bring that up. They can sort of watch and all this, sort of implode on Trump. And, judging by how fast a lot of the Republicans seem to be running from him, I don't think the GOP, not the RNC as an institution, I don't think they're giving money to Trump for the purpose of electing him anymore, which, it's a big deal. There's all this talk about how do we replace him? You could have replaced him by not voting for him, especially when he called all Mexicans rapists and criminals and talked about the good ones as if we were an anomaly based on statistics. I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. But yeah, that's one of my thoughts on it. This is a Thursday at it's 1:30 in the morning when I'm recording this. It'll be really interesting to see where this goes from here on out. Hopefully I have this episode up by Saturday, and yeah, I guess that's the last of the first episode of MexSkeptical. Special thanks to the Commission on Presidential Debates for hosting a debate and, excluding, all third-party candidates from it. Not that our third-party candidates are any good, but, it's nice to see a bunch of people on a stage fighting with each other. It would have been nice, watch Jill Stein defend her vaccine skepticism comments and her position on GMOs, which is fucking crazy. So, broadcasting to a country where Bob Dylan is an official Nobel laureate, I present to you, America, buenas noches. All theme music has been written and composed by me on GarageBand. If you have comments, hate mail, questions, or suggestions, please feel free to comment on this YouTube video. You can email me at mexskeptical@gmail.com or go to @mexskeptical on Twitter. See you next time.